I've seen a lot, but this one just is so horrendously awful and evil and selfish and just everything that's absolute that could be wrong with a person is wrong with this mother-in-law, and I can't believe it. Today's Reddit stories are all about mothers-in-law from hell, a real classic. Our first one is titled, "My mother-in-law tampered with my birth control and admitted it." Hi, I'm new and using a throwaway. I, 33 years old, and my husband, 35 years old, are child-free and have been married 7 years. We've made it clear since day one that we do not want kids. She had a huge problem with this, since my husband is an only child, meaning she'd never be a grandparent. She always had the attitude that our opinions would change. About a year ago, she made a weird comment along the lines of, well, what if you get pregnant by accident? Then you'd have to keep it. I ignored the comment and moved on. About 6 months ago, mother-in-law had a car accident which resulted in a major leg injury. She had to move in with us since she was no longer able to walk up and down a flight of stairs. We own a ranch-style home and have 2 extra rooms. She said it would just be until she healed and could sell her house and buy a single story. Fine, whatever. Okay. She's still here because the market is awful right now and houses are too expensive. While watching TV last night, we got to talking about infertility for some reason. She blurted out, "I bet you're infertile and don't even know it. You should be pregnant by now." I reminded her we're child-free. She said that doesn't matter because my birth control pills aren't effective anymore. I asked her what she meant, and she got this smug look on her face and informed me in front of my husband that she had been microwaving my pills every month. She was so proud of this, then turned to my husband and said, "You married an infertile woman, didn't you? That's why you tell me you don't want kids." I was in shock and just stared at my husband open-mouthed. What she doesn't know is that I did get pregnant 4 months ago and had an abortion. Husband came to faster than I did, raised his voice to her and told her to get out. I honestly don't remember exactly what he said because I felt like I was in shock. I felt like my ears had cotton in them. I heard yelling back and forth but couldn't make it out, and then I realized she was crying. I went to our room and locked myself in. I texted husband to text me when she was gone. I put in headphones to drown it out. Almost an hour later, he tells me she's gone. He came in, apologized, and assured me that she'd never be in our house again. I just said, okay. I really don't know what to do. I'm mad, I'm disgusted, but I'm also really sad. That abortion was one of the most painful and traumatic experiences I've ever had to go through, and now I know it was because of her. I'm in no way mad at my husband, but I've definitely pulled away and he can tell. He knows that something's up and keeps asking what else he can do, but I don't know. I'm just lost. How do I move on from this? This has got to be the worst mother-in-law story I have ever read, I have ever seen. And, you know, people complain about their mother-in-law quite often. It's one of the most common tropes, I guess, one of the most common conflicts that happens in a marriage when you don't get along with your in-laws. And especially the introduction of kids usually makes the relationship even worse and it makes it a lot more tense. And so I already have a ton of content about mother-in-laws and their expectations and how annoying it is, how overbearing they can be, and so on and so forth. So I've seen a lot, but this one just is so horrendously awful and evil and selfish and just everything that's absolute that could be wrong with a person is wrong with this mother-in-law, and I can't believe it. I can't believe that she ever decided to do this. Now, there's a trigger warning here for sexual assault because a lot of people will consider this to be sexual assault if someone gets you pregnant without your will. OP says that she doesn't feel that way, and I guess fair enough, she can feel however she wants to feel about it, but fundamentally it's really like you have to just be the most evil, horrendous person to even think of doing something like this, and I truly don't know how you would move on from it. I think it's one of those situations where you will need therapy and you need to grieve that whole process quite a lot. And I honestly don't know how the husband could ever have a relationship with his mother again after this, because I would be so bitter and angry and resentful about it. So yeah, this is like overbearing taken to such an extreme level that I don't quite understand how you could how she ever felt like she could justify it for herself. There's a really interesting comment here where OP says that the husband is an only child, and so this would be like if he had kids was the only opportunity that the mother-in-law would have to have grandchildren. But honestly, number one, she I'm assuming that she made the choice to have only one child, or however it was that her life turned out, that she didn't have more kids, and that was kind of her choice. To be so desperate to have grandchildren is kind of blows my mind. And to be desperate to this extent, where you prove that you're going to just not be, like, you're not going to be a grandparent that's welcome in their life if this is how you behave and this is how you interact. And especially in connection with, she had an accident, she was injured, they took her into their home, they let her move in. You know, they were really, like, they treated her as a family member, and invited her into their home, and to kind of shit on their trust in this really evil way just boggles my mind. So I was really horrified when I read this, honestly, and I'm still not quite totally over it. Like, this was one of the first Reddit stories that I came across about mothers-in-law, and oh god, this is just unfortunate. I really wish for the world that people are not quite so selfish to this extent, and I can't quite imagine how you could ever justify this for yourself. I don't know what was going through her head. I'd be curious to hear how she tried to kind of excuse her way out of it, and what came to her mind. I would also actually be curious to hear how this proceeds from here, because honestly, if it was my mother-in-law, we would completely cut her out of our life. There would never be any question of her being involved anymore. The next one is titled, "Am I the a-hole for telling my daughter-in-law to grow up and say what she needs to say? I'm 58, my daughter-in-law is 29, and I don't have the best relationship. I'm not a meddling mother-in-law. She had a rough upbringing from her mother's addiction and abandonment the first 15 years of her life, and has trust and control issues because of it. She couldn't control much as a kid and wants to control everything now. Let me also say that her mother has done amazing things with her life since getting sober, and I give her full credit for this. Her mother has lived with them since they moved in together over 10 years ago. Both of them are judgmental and at times don't seem to care for me very much. My daughter-in-law is currently cooking their third child, which will also be their third girl. Do I want a grandson? Of course. It would be fun to have another little boy just like my amazing son, who's 31. I have had and still have my share of faults. However, both of my kids will tell you I was a good mother, and my daughter will tell you I'm a fantastic nanny. I have the oldest 8-year-old girl half-time, and we co-parent. My son knows in his heart I'm a great grandmother, but you really can't tell since my daughter-in-law has never let me be alone with them except upstairs in their playroom. To be fair, she has never left them with anyone except her mother. My daughter-in-law's younger brother just had a baby boy. I did the usual congratulations on Facebook. I ended the post with a joke saying, "This may be the only grandson I get. Good thing my son and daughter have male animals." It was totally a joke. I didn't mean to hurt feelings or cause my daughter-in-law stress. My daughter-in-law texted me that my post to her brother was rude and out of line, and I better delete it. Unbelievable. This is not the first time she's told me in text how unbelievable I am. I immediately took down the comment and texted that I was sorry, it was meant to be a joke, and that I understand pregnancy can be hard, but that I thought her wording and demand to me was rude and out of line. Her response, "There is so much more I could say." So I told her to grow up and say it. That maybe we should stop pretending that everything is okay. I may or may not have said something to the effect of, "Maybe your mum wants to chime in, as she has done on many occasions that do not involve her." But I can neither confirm nor deny that I made that comment. So, am I the a-hole for wanting my daughter-in-law to just tell me how she feels and what she has to say so we can or cannot move past it for the sake of my son and grandgirls? I have been asking my son for 2 years to sit down with me, maybe an hour tops, so he and I can discuss some stuff, because I haven't told him all the times his wife or mother-in-law have said inappropriate things to myself or my husband. I would never want to put him in a position where he thinks he has to choose, and I would never ask him to do that. He's just very sensitive and doesn't care much for confrontation. Every time we make a plan, daughter-in-law finds a way to sabotage it. And please, no comments on how my son needs to grow a pair. I know this, and telling me won't change him. I love this one because finally you get this image, you get the image from the mother-in-law side. And obviously the vast majority of the time, a lot of people, it's like the daughter-in-law that's writing about her mother-in-law to complain. That's a very, very common way that these stories come out. And now you can really read what it's like from the mother-in-law side. And hilariously, she still does not present her side quite that well. So she starts off by saying, "I'm not a meddling mother-in-law." But then she says that her daughter-in-law has control issues. Now, she excuses him. She says, I know why she has control issues, but fundamentally, she says, daughter-in-law has control issues. That's already a big red flag. If my mother-in-law thinks that I have control issues, and that suggests to me that she's trying to be a little bit too involved in my life. And then she says, the daughter-in-law is currently cooking their third child, which will be a third girl. Do I want a grandson? Of course. Now, the moment that you start having opinions about the gender of the child and you do this thing, like, honestly, I don't think it's fair or good to have such a heavy gender preference that it comes through in your interaction, your communication with other people. So that's also already a red flag. Then she says that she co-parents her grandchild from the daughter of her daughter, I guess. So she says, I have the oldest 8-year-old girl half-time and we co-parent. That already sounds like another red flag. Not to say that you can't enter these agreements. You know, if the parents are totally happy for you to be equally as involved in their children's lives, then sure, fair enough, people can do whatever they want. And if it works out for everyone, then fine. But if you have the expectation that because you're co-parenting one of your grandchildren, that you should get the same access to the other grandchild, then that's a red flag. That's not good either. Then she says, she's never left me alone with them except upstairs in their playroom, which, okay, I don't understand why as a grandparent you need hours and hours of time with your grandchildren alone. Like, it sounds to me, if you get enough access to them that you get to visit them quite often, that you get to play with them, that she's happy to let you play with them, then she's actually involving you quite a bit and she's giving you the opportunity to be a grandparent. So that doesn't sound unfair. And then she says, to be fair, she's never left them with anyone except her mother. So she also understands that her expectations here are kind of dodgy. Then, of course, the joke comes in, and okay, you know, I can understand that people sometimes make a joke and they think it's funny and it doesn't work out. I also would not say that the joke is really the fundamental problem that she has here. It's all the other things that came before it. All that said, the joke was probably in bad taste. Maybe it's not the best time to make a joke about the child's gender via Facebook when you already have a strained relationship with your daughter-in-law. Like, maybe you're kind of asking for trouble if you do that and you're behaving like a child. So that's that part. And then when she's called out on it and the daughter-in-law asks her to delete it, she's like, how dare you be rude and out of line to me? So that's also a problem. Like, that would piss me off if you made a joke that I wasn't happy with and you thought that it was funny and I'm like, hey, that wasn't funny, get rid of it. Then the defensive response where she tries to present her side as though she didn't do anything wrong, that would annoy me as well. And then she told her, okay, now grow up and say it. And she says grow up and say it as though, oh, okay, we can just sit down and have a normal conversation because none of these other things happened in the past. And you can hear how it comes across, right? As an external person reading how she describes herself and how she describes her behavior and the things that she's doing and the things that are important to her and the things that aren't. Like, she just comes across like the most overbearing mother-in-law. It's so annoying. And then at the end of it, at the very, very end, she ends with this amazing, amazing little nugget where she says that she's been trying to get her son to sit down with her for an hour tops, and she's been trying for the last 2 years. So she's tried repeatedly over and over and over again to make him sit down so she can complain to him about his wife and about his in-laws. And then she says the daughter-in-law always sabotages it. And then she implies that her son is the one who needs to grow up here because what he should do is he should sit there and defend her, his mother, against his wife. Which is not how it should be, by the way. If you accept that you are the mother and that now he has a new family and his wife comes first, you should actually encourage him to treat his wife well and to respect her and to respect her needs and to try to meet them. So no, I think the accusation that the daughter-in-law is the one sabotaging it, like maybe if the husband, if her son cared so much about sitting down with her, he would have done that. But honestly, if the fundamental thing that you want to get out of it is that you just want to sit him down and bitch to him about his wife, then it's a good thing that he doesn't want to talk to you, because that's not healthy. That's not a good that's not a good dynamic that you can have in your family. And the fact that he's coming down on his wife's side here makes him actually more respectable than the alternative if he went down on the mother-in-law side. So yes, dear OP, you are the a-hole for everything else. Like, I don't think that necessarily the comment of telling her to grow up in response to this joke, I suspect that that's maybe not the end of the world, but everything else makes it very clear that you are the a-hole. And I feel bad. I feel bad for mothers-in-law that end up in this situation, because I don't think that they ever expected or wanted to be unwanted in their kids' lives. But that's the part where if you learn boundaries and you learn to take a step back and you learn to give people their space, maybe you don't accuse them of having control issues just because they don't let you spend time alone with their kids unattended or whatever, however you excuse that in your head, then maybe it wouldn't be a problem anymore, and maybe you would be a much appreciated and a much desired mother-in-law. The next one. My mother-in-law told me that my miscarriage is nothing compared to the pain that she felt when I took her son. She said, "What's more, 31 years or 10 weeks?" I was like, what? And then she explained to me that her pain was so much bigger than mine when she lost her son when he was 31, when I took him, compared to my pain when I lost my pregnancy. That's why she wasn't able to be supportive when it happened. We need to understand her and her feelings. It's not always about us. I'm thinking of breaking contact at this point, because this is just one of many extreme, crazy, and hurtful things she said. I'm currently 17 weeks pregnant and just want a calm and uneventful pregnancy. You know, sometimes you read these sentences and you just the level of facepalm that you need to give yourself in response. Like, if I was sitting in front of this woman and she said this to me, I think I would have walked out of the room. Like, having a miscarriage is already an extremely traumatic and tragic experience that a lot of women go through, and having it diminished, I guess, is even worse, because that's one of the aspects about it that's really painful. It's this idea that, oh, well, it was only a 10-week-old baby, therefore you shouldn't mourn it, you shouldn't grieve. When obviously as a mother, you know that it was alive and now it's not alive anymore, and you lost something and you can feel like you lost something. So it's perfectly normal to grieve after a miscarriage. And the suggestion that the son here, the husband, moving out as a 31-year-old man is somehow comparable to the death of a child, even a fetus, if you want to call it that. That's so unbelievably offensive. Just the suggestion of it is so offensive. I don't know what it is about some mothers. I don't know if it's the fact that maybe they don't have as many kids as they want. Maybe they don't have the most healthy relationship with their sons, especially. Maybe they don't have a good, healthy relationship with their husbands, and therefore they kind of treat their sons as a proxy husband when they really shouldn't. There's some kind of, I guess, the opposite of an Oedipal complex thing going on there. Whatever it is that goes on with them, that they do not have this understanding that when their sons grow up, they are self-sufficient, independent men, and now your relationship with them cannot be on the same level that it was when they were kids. And they're not proxy husbands for you. They're not yours. They don't belong to you. That's the part about it that's really dodgy and really scary. And as a 31-year-old man, OP explains in the comments that he basically still lived at home as a 31-year-old man just because the mother guilt-tripped him into doing it, and he needed to save money, blah, blah. There was a whole situation there, and it's like, fine. But the fact that she experienced him deciding to move out in his 30s, as though it was some kind of death, as if she had to grieve that's messed up. Like, that's really messed up. That puts her mental state in a completely bonkers kind of place. So yeah, God, some of these people just boggle the mind, you know. The next one, bragging about not following rules for baby. My mother-in-law already makes me extremely uncomfortable. She pushed my husband multiple times to give me wine during my pregnancy and for us to co-sleep with our baby. He's firmly said no to both of those ideas because we had already discussed that we wouldn't be doing either. Our baby is now 7 weeks old and she has asked if she can babysit. I told my husband I don't trust her to do what we ask and follow safety guidelines, so she hasn't babysat yet. My parents have babysat and she's aware of that. Well, I think I was proven right tonight. She was over visiting and having supervised time with baby when she starts bragging about how when she watches my brother-in-law and sister-in-law's 1-year-old, they have too many rules, so she just ignores it. She said that she gives my niece stuff she's not allowed to have while they watch Bluey. I was venting to my friend about this, and my friend says, oh yeah, she posted on Facebook about how she pulls her out of her crib and doesn't do what the brother-in-law asks her to. Apparently, all of her friends commented about how she's such a fun grandma. Is my dislike for her making me blow this out of proportion? I'm thinking she's not going to be allowed to watch our daughter alone unless there are big changes. Yeah, OP, I would also not be giving her my child to watch either. I think that there is some part where, okay, some levels of rule breaking, I guess, if you want to call it that, some level of rule breaking by the grandparents is something that you kind of have to accept and deal with, just because they're different people. Maybe they don't know exactly how you would deal with a particular situation. They have a different style of parenting. Fine, fair enough. But there's a huge difference between kind of making mistakes or doing something that the parents don't like unintentionally, and then going out of your way to be like, well, yeah, I don't care what they want. I can do whatever I want with my grandkids, and it makes me the fun grandma. And it's like a badge of honor where you say, okay, because I break rules, that's what makes me fun. That, I think, kind of makes it like she cannot differentiate between things that are a safety concern versus things that are not a safety concern. And so, for example, if grandparents feed the child whatever, like a cookie or something once, that's probably not going to be the end of the world. But if they do it repeatedly, then that's going to be a problem once you've talked to them and said, I don't want that, because that means that they're ignoring your wishes, explicitly ignoring your wishes as a parent. And that's a major red flag. And then the other one, if they actually do something that is harmful, for example, asking you to drink wine during your pregnancy, like I don't even know why you would ask that, but having this idea of things that are potentially harmful for the baby and being okay with them, or choosing to co-sleep if it's a really young child. I would not be comfortable with the grandparents co-sleeping with my child. So these are things that I'm like, no, I would not have any trust whatsoever. But I think I actually would sit down and talk to her about it. And I would say, look, I know that you have this image of yourself as a fun grandma, and you think that being the fun grandma means you can do whatever you want. And yeah, we understand, like, we want them to appreciate you and to enjoy spending time with you as well. But that this attitude of, yeah, I don't care what you guys say, makes it hard for me to trust you. And I don't want to have you take care of my children alone, because I don't know what you'll be doing with them. And that's it. I think that sometimes we all ignore these types of comments because we're like, yeah, I roll, it doesn't matter. But if it really was ever the case that someone is explicitly asking to babysit and she wants to have information, I mean, baby is 7 weeks old, so baby's still super young. I wouldn't be doing any babysitting at that age either. But that you can actually sit down and talk about the babysitting aspect of it and say, look, this is why. This exact example here that we see, this Facebook post that we see from you, these are the reasons that we don't feel comfortable with it. And then see if people actually change their behavior. Like, I think if you're lucky, you might end up with a mother-in-law who does hear you and changes. And if you're unlucky, then you're just like, yeah, well, then no babysitting. It's not a big deal. The final one, am I the a-hole because I, 57 years old, haven't met my grandson who's 3 months old yet? My oldest son, Justin, who's 33, just had a baby boy on November the 30th last year. Justin and his wife live an hour drive away. However, I don't drive or have a car. Therefore, if I took public transportation, it would take upwards of 2.5 hours to see them. Due to them living so far, me being busy with work and the cold winter weather, I haven't made my way out to see the baby. I did host a Christmas dinner at a restaurant on December 16th for all my kids, in which Justin and his wife said they would try their best to come with baby. However, they did say it's not guaranteed, depending on how hectic it would be for them with a toddler and a newborn. They ended up not coming to the dinner and told everyone their doors are open for visitors during the holidays. None of us visited as we were busy and the commute was too far. I feel like I've done my part to see the baby with the dinner plans. However, it just didn't work out. Last week, I received a call from Justin to come meet the baby and see my granddaughter. I told him I had Valentine's dinner plans with my boyfriend and can't come. I could tell that he was annoyed on the phone. I really want to meet my grandson. However, things just haven't worked out. I do try to video chat to see their kids once every few months, as Justin has made it clear in the past when they haven't heard from me in over 8 months that I need to make an effort. Life just gets in the way. I've noticed Justin's wife stopped sending me pictures of the kids, nor does she engage with me about anything. Reddit, am I the a-hole? Now, I think at this point you can just come out and say that you don't care about your grandkids, you don't care about your son, and that's it. I feel bad only when people have this expectation that their parents are actually decent people and their parents want to be involved in their life, and then they're disappointed. And then you have to deal with the disappointment of that. And I think the disappointment is what makes you an a-hole. Like you are an a-hole just by virtue of being a bad mother and a bad grandmother. But those are the choices that you get to make. You know, you're free to be like, well, I don't really care. Life just gets in the way. I don't really care about spending time with my kid or with my grandkids. I think this is insane. Like, I think she's completely wrong here. But again, like, you can't force people to be interested in wanting to have a relationship with your children. And so you can be annoyed at them and cut them out of your life, but then that's it. You know, there's nothing else to be done. But you can see, number one, it would take 2.5 hours to see them. My in-laws actually drive 2.5 hours every single time they want to see their grandson, and they come very often and very regularly. It would never occur to them to say, yeah, 2.5 hours is too long. Like, some people, actually, some reasonable in-laws or parents will fly to go see their grandkids when they're born. Like, how often do grandkids get born these days? Not that often. She has 2 grandkids in this story. One is a toddler and one is a newborn, and you couldn't be bothered seeing them, even though you live actually pretty close. Like, rent a car and drive over. I mean, she says she doesn't drive. You have a boyfriend. I'm sure the boyfriend drives. Like, come on. This is a ridiculous excuse. Then the Christmas dinner. She hosted a Christmas dinner when the baby was 2 weeks old, and then she thought that she would get them to come over with a newborn and a toddler and a 2-week-old baby. Like, not just newborn, but a 2-week-old baby. Like, that's insane. That's completely unreasonable. I don't know why she thought this was reasonable. And then when she says they ended up not coming and told everyone their doors are open for visitors during the holidays and not a single person could be bothered going over. That says to me, you guys are a terrible family. You don't care about each other and you don't want to spend time with each other. And then the last time he called her and said, hey, do you want to come over and you know, see the baby? She's still like, oh no, but I have dinner plans. Okay, I'm sorry. If you're seeing your boyfriend relatively often, you can just have dinner plans on another day. Like, if that's a big deal, you're not losing out. You're not missing out on a lot. I would easily be willing to cancel my dinner plans to see my grandchild, who is already 3 months old and I haven't met. And then at the end of it, you also see this beautiful little piece of information where she says, when they haven't heard from her in over 8 months, then her son is like, yeah, you need to make an effort. And the effort that she makes is this: she gives them, like, she video chats with them every few months. Like, I'm sorry, if the newborn is 3 months old and you're video chatting every few months, then that's what, like 2, 3, 4 times a year. That's how often you video chat. Do you know how easy it is to video chat if you actually cared about seeing the kids? So yeah, no, OP, you can just admit that you don't give a shit and then move on with your life, and that's fine, and tell your son so he can move on with his life as well, and so that he doesn't have any expectations towards you being a grandmother. And then you can see here, OP does an edit after Reddit came down on her pretty hard. She says, I just want to clarify that my boyfriend is my partner of over 5 years and we live together. So it's not a random relationship that a lot of people are implying. We are also not hoarders. We live 77 kilometers away. I can't rent a car because I don't have a license. My boyfriend does not own a car. We live in a transit accessible city. I have made an effort. Maybe I need to try harder, but I have made an effort. Last year, I made the trip by myself to see my granddaughter in May. I've shown up to my granddaughter's birthday in July and even went to the baby shower at the end of August. I even hosted a dinner near my apartment at a restaurant for Thanksgiving, which was the last time we saw them, as the Christmas dinner was a no-go for them. Okay, so she saw them like 3 times a year, and then at the birth of her grandchild, she didn't care anymore. So no, I don't think that qualifies as making an effort. I'm sorry. If she was able to make her way over for like, they're all events, you know, it was like a birthday and a baby shower. If you're going to miss your grandchild's birthday, or you're going to miss a baby shower for your new grandchild, and then you can't be bothered showing up after the birth, like, I'm sorry, you just are not interested in being a grandparent to these people. And like I said, you're free to decide to do that with yourself and with your time. You can do whatever you want. You're a grown adult person, but that still makes you an a-hole. That's all we have time for today. If you like this video, feel free to like it down below or to leave a comment if you agree or disagree with anything that I've said here. And you can also subscribe for future content. I will see you in the next one.